Johan, when do we begin?
We'll begin.
Your echo is too. So, as advised, Sumit, you can start directly, I think, in the interest of time.
Sure.
Vandana, can we begin? Vandana, can we start, please?
Ma'am, we are starting the new system. So the person has started the system last 2 minutes. We are making the adjustments.
Sure, please keep us posted, Vandana.
Sure, sure.
who worked very hard to put this event together, and I wish them the best for today and tomorrow. With that, and now again, with our deepest apologies for the delay due to technical issues, but nevertheless, a very important delay, I would like us to start the session, and I welcome you again to the Indo-French Investment Conclave in Tamil Nadu. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumit. I'm now pleased to welcome the Consul General of France in Chennai and Pondicherry, Ms. Lise Talbot-Barré, to share her special remarks.
Thank you, Priyanka. Chers amis, ladies and gentlemen, dear Mrs. Director General of IFCCI, dear Mr. President of IFCCI, dear Mr. Managing Director of the Tamil Nadu Guidance Bureau, dear Dr. Mittal, dear representative of Indian and French companies, dear honorable guests, bonjour à tous. It's an honor for me to be here with you today for this first online investment conclave organized by the IFCCI, and I'm very happy this is focused on Tamil Nadu. Despite the COVID, this event shows the strength and the will of our two countries to maintain and develop their economic relations. In the south of India, you have a Team France mobilized and dedicated to support and accompany French companies doing business in Tamil Nadu. This French team is composed of this Consulate General in Chennai, the Business France team in Chennai, and this dynamic partnership between the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry and the Tamil Nadu Guidance Bureau. So you see, we are all there for you. And this pandemic, in this pandemic time, this pandemic managed to reinforce and to improve the relations between France and India. The French companies present in India gave more than 480 million rupees, roughly around 6 million euros, to the relief funds, to the Indian relief funds, including the Prime Minister Cares Fund. In Tamil Nadu, French companies took part in the effort to fight against the coronavirus, offering ventilators, producing ventilators, and helping the local population. So France and India really worked and are working hand in hand to fight against the pandemic, and this is also, of course, reinforcing our economic relations. In India, as Mr. President said, we have a substantial presence of French companies. France has invested more than 7 billion euros over the last 10 years, and we evaluate around 500 Indian branches of French companies, which all across the country represent 3.5 lakhs jobs. In Tamil Nadu, French presence is also substantial, and I'm looking forward to make it grow even more. We have around 150 French companies. These companies are long-term investments, combining innovation and social responsibility. They represent a nice diversity of sectors. Of course, automobile, construction, industrial sector, which is the strength of Tamil Nadu, but not only. We have ITs, health sector, agro-food industry, logistic, port management, renewable energy, and some others. We had the chance to have last December the visit of the Ambassador of France, Mr. Emmanuel Lenin, and at this occasion, we met the Chief Minister, Edopadi Palasvani. It was the first time this Chief Minister was meeting a French ambassador, so it's a political achievement. And that was the occasion to say and strengthen the will of France to focus on Tamil Nadu, taking advantage of this huge potential in industry, in high education, in this good quality of labor force to develop French business and cooperation between France and India. At this occasion, as Mr. President said, there was the signature of this MOU between the IFCCI and the Tamil Nadu Guidance Bureau, which reinforced the Team France, as I've just said. I'm very happy also today to witness with you the signature of a letter of intention from 4 French companies, A. Raymond Fastener, Criolor Asia Pacific, Prechia Molens, and Timac Agro. And I'm very glad that among these companies, we find small and middle-sized companies, which are substantial actors that doesn't have to be minimized. Actually, in France, most of the private companies are small and medium-sized companies. They are around 4 million, and they represent around more than 80% of the French companies. So they are substantial actors, but we also need to help develop and settle in Tamil Nadu. So I'm really looking forward to listening to these panels of today and tomorrow. And as I said, my Consulate General in Chennai and Pondicherry with the Team France, we're really here for you, and we will be supporting you in any way we can. So I wish you a very fruitful conclave, and looking forward to meeting you in Rio when the sanitary conditions permit it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Consul General. We now have a special message sent by Mr. MC Sampath, Minister for Industries at the Government of Tamil Nadu via video, as he's unable to join the conclave in person today. Can we have his video queued, please?
Madam Leslie Dalbert-Berry, Consul General of France in Tamil Nadu, Dr. Neeraj Mittal, MD CEO of Guidance, leaders of industry and members joining from France and India, it's my honor to address the Tamil Nadu Investment Conclave organized by the Indo-French Chamber of Commerce and Industry. I am proud to say that Tamil Nadu, the second largest economy in India, has emerged as the top investment destination in India, despite the COVID-19 pandemic. In the last year, the state has attracted rupees 86,478 crores of investment for 84 projects. For the third continuous year in 2019-20, Tamil Nadu has recorded a higher economic growth rate of 8.03%, double the national average of 4.2%. Tamil Nadu is the home to over 60 French companies since 2004. There has been an investment of USD 3.9 billion from France to Tamil Nadu. Michelin, Renault, BSA, Engine, Lactalis, and Saint-Gobain and some of the major French companies present in Tamil Nadu. These companies are present across various sectors across the industrial landscape of the state. Even the peak of COVID-19 crisis, we signed an MOU in May 2020 with Engine for an investment of USD 270 million. This is testimony to the strong partnership between France and Tamil Nadu. I wish to thank existing French companies in Tamil Nadu for their trust, and I welcome the new companies who are here today. We are committed to support you and ensure that you thrive in Tamil Nadu. Thank you. Nandri. Vanakkam.
Of Guidance Tamil Nadu, the state's nodal agency for investment promotion and single window facilitation, to speak on the topic Rising Tamil Nadu. As the Consul General mentioned earlier, IFCCI was pleased to sign an MOU with the Guidance Tamil Nadu in December 2020 in the presence of the Ambassador of France in India, His Excellency Mr. Emmanuel Lena, and the Minister for Industries in Tamil Nadu, who you just heard speak, Mr. MC Sampath. Over to you, Dr. Mittal.
Thank you, Priyank. Thank you for this wonderful opportunity to speak to all of you on this occasion of the third edition of Tamil Nadu Investment Conclave, organized by Indo-French Chamber of Commerce. Thank you so much to Madam Lise, who has been a great pillar of support to all of us. We're very happy actually to receive His Excellency, Mr. Emmanuel Lene, in December last year. And we had the pleasure of interacting with him, and his enthusiasm about Tamil Nadu, its culture, its people was infectious. And that has laid a very, very strong foundation with the state of Tamil Nadu, of French companies. And we already have such a great set of companies who are already here in Tamil Nadu from France, including Michelin, Renault, PSA, Valeo, NG, Lactalis, and many others. And there are several others today who are today and tomorrow who are participating. So I really see a very, very bright future for French companies. I see as soon as the travels ease up and coronavirus eases up, we should be in France, and we should have more delegations from France coming in here to help set up new businesses. The momentum to industrialize has grown very, very significantly since in 2019, when the Honorable Chief Minister visited United States and other countries. The investment momentum has not stopped. In fact, during the worst corona year last year, Tamil Nadu attracted the largest amount of investment in the half of financial year 2021. We have seen this growing investment interest essentially because of many reasons linked to fundamental factors of economic production, human capital. We produce roughly 1 million graduates every year. Power supply, we are in excess of power supply for the next decade. A large amount of energy is produced through renewable sources. The Tamil Nadu excels in its Human Development Index. Our poverty rate has reduced from about 11% to 11% from about 17%. We rank first in the Sustainable Development Goals of ending poverty. And therefore, the climate of investment, labor relations, the productivity of labor, all are very, very high. Besides that, Tamil Nadu is well connected with the external world, with good infrastructure support. We are able to provide 24/7 service to all our investors. The innovation ecosystem has been growing by leaps and bounds. We were ranked number 2 in Innovation Index by Niti Aayog. And as is well known, Tamil Nadu is a great player in supporting exports from India. We were ranked number 3 in export preparedness index in the country as well. We have been growing very fast, almost 8%, which is double the national average. Our investments, which we did in 2019 in the gym, of about 304 MOUs. We almost have 81 projects which have been have commenced production. Another 191 are in various stages of implementation, which takes our conversion rate to about 90%, which is a very, very healthy conversion rate. After the gym 2019, in past 23 months alone, we have had an investment of about 80,000 crores. In the COVID times, the investment totaled to about 60,000 crores. And this has predominantly happened in very, very fast emerging sectors. So for example, data center, electric vehicles, batteries, food processing industries, amongst others. We see that this trend is further strengthened by a continuous policy upgradation initiative of the government. We have released several policies in the recent past. Our industrial policy, which is actually kind of finished 5 years in 2019, is getting an overhaul. It's going to be released very shortly by the Honorable Chief Minister. We hope to see that this policy will be the most flexible and most comprehensive as far as the manufacturing ecosystem is concerned. And you will all see that this will be a harbinger of a very, very forward-looking policy which will attract further investment. The state is also working feverishly on improving its ease of doing business. We have a single window portal which helps all investors get their clearances seamlessly so that they can focus on their business, and compliance burden is left to guidance to help them with. We are increasing the number of services offered by about 200 in about 6 months' time, which will make the entire G2B interface electronic. There are several other electronic initiatives which we are taking to improve the ease of doing business and reduce the cost of doing business. We are committed to all investors, and we assure all our investors who are thinking to come to Tamil Nadu from France that they will receive the most stellar service from guidance, which is committed to provide a 24/7 service to all of you. With these words, I again thank our Consul General, Ms. Lees, and our Ambassador, His Excellency, Mr. Emmanuel Lenin, Payal, and the IFCCI to have organized this seminar. I know we have a 2-day session ahead, and I know we are a little behind schedule, so I will not take any more time. And I thank you again all for giving us this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Mittal, for the kind words. I'm pleased to now welcome Mr. Vishu Mahajan, an IAS officer and the Additional Commissioner to Industries Commissioner and Director of Industries and Commerce, who is also the Managing Director of MTIB, Tamil Nadu, that stands for the MSME Trade and Investment Promotion Bureau. Over to you, Mr. Mahajan.
A very good evening to everyone. Madam Consul General, Payal, Ms. Sumit, Neeraj Mittal sir, who is my senior in service and a guide, Ms. Saisuda, and all everyone in the audience. Very good evening to everyone. And at the outset, I would like to thank IFCCI for this wonderful program. And on behalf of the MSME Department of Government of Tamil Nadu, I would like to welcome everyone to this inaugural session of the third edition of the Tamil Nadu Investment Conclave. I would like to briefly speak about what the MSME department does and the support services that we offer to MSME investors and MSME enterprises. Because a lot of people might not be aware, there is a dedicated department for MSMEs in Tamil Nadu. So any industry with an annual turnover of under 30 million euros, approximately 30 million euros, would fall in the MSME category. And in Tamil Nadu, we have a vibrant MSME ecosystem and an equally mature state support system for MSMEs. The total number of MSMEs is approximately 4.9 million in the Tamil Nadu state itself. And they employ about a total of 9.6 million people and also contribute about 49% to the state's exports outside. So a very strong presence in the industrial setup is of the MSME sector. Also, the department offers very well structured incentives and SOPs to MSME units who want to establish their facilities in the state, including capital subsidy, power subsidies, incentives for obtaining quality certifications, and energy conservation audits, and also for providing new skills to your employees and workforce. Also, the new MSME policy is going to be released very soon by the government, and all these incentives, which I said, are going to be greatly improved from this year onwards. Also, there are multiple dedicated government organizations for various aspects across a business's life cycle. For example, we have the Startup TN and the EDII, which provide support to startups. We have the MTIB, which is a newly created organization for business facilitation and hand-holding support to MSME units. And SIDCO provides developed industrial land and various other organizations which provide dedicated support across the value chain of a business. Apart from this, there are also very useful technological platforms like the single window portal, which Neeraj Mittal sir also mentioned about. So there is a similar portal for the MSMEs as well. Also, there is something called as the MSCFC, which is the Micro and Small Industries Facilitation Councils, which help in quickly disposing of payment-related cases to provide relief to cash-strapped MSMEs. Also, the MSME department has presence in every district in the form of a district industry center, which provides a kind of a one-stop place for all MSMEs in that particular district to reach out to for their requirements. When it comes to bilateral trade with France, there is already a thriving export trade from India in the MSME sectors, especially in textile, leather, engineering, fabrication, machining, precision parts manufacturing, components, tools and dies, and engineering design. And we expect this to grow further with the establishment of district level export promotion committees and export facilitation desks, which is being undertaken at MTIB now. These district export facilitation cells would be provided with trained personnel for export related handholding for MSME enterprises. At the end, I would like to welcome and embrace the two SMEs from France who have shown interest in establishing operations in Tamil Nadu. And I assure you that we will stand by you through your journey in this progressive state. Thank you very much for having me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mahajan, for these kind words, as well as the special mention and extent of your hand to the French companies. We now commence the second part of today's program with the virtual LOI submissions by French companies to the government of Tamil Nadu with a total value of INR 200 crores. For this session, I request our Director General, Mrs. Payal Kanwar, our President, Mr. Sumit Anand, and the Consul General, Ms. Lise Talbot-Barré, to turn their videos on. And I now invite Dr. Neeraj Mittal, from Guidance Tamil Nadu to receive the LOI from Mr. Manish Padharia, who is the Managing Director of RMO Fasteners, via this virtual submission. Request Mr. Padharia to share a few words.
Can you hear me? Somebody
Yes.
can confirm. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Thank you. So good afternoon, everybody. I really congratulate the officials in Tamil Nadu for the third edition of Tamil Nadu Investment Conclave. Little bit I will like to share with Mr. Neeraj Mittal, MD Guidance Tamil Nadu, Mr. Vishu Mahajan, MD MT about ARMO. ARMO is a French company based out of Grenoble, very near to Lyon. We are a 150-year-old company, family-owned, right now being run by fifth generation. The current CEO is Mr. Antoine Raymond. We have been into fastening. We have been one of the pioneer in garment fasteners in earlier days, but right now we are more focused on to automotive fasteners. Some of the major customers for us are Ford, which is our global major customer. Apart from that, Peugeot, Citroën, Renault, they are also our global partners and one of the very important partner. Globally, we are 1.2 billion euro. Energy, where we are providing fasteners for the renewable energy fixings, solar panels. And again, the newest market, what we have is the life market, where we are providing closures for vaccines. And we are already working actively with the COVID vaccines in around the world with major players. So this is what is about ARMO Group. ARMO India was established in 2007 in Pune. One of our initial customer, Ford, asked us to set up in those days in Chennai. Somehow, because of only one customer, we were not able to. But as we know, when there is a right time, we start to focus towards the goal. And this is the right time for us, and that is how we are moving towards Tamil Nadu. Right now in Tamil Nadu, we have already set up a small business unit on a leased premise where we have around 20 people working, and our idea is to set up our own plant, and that is why we want to focus on investment, and that is considering the potential and performance of Tamil Nadu. One is there is a lot of potential, but again, as Mr. Neeraj Mittal, you said that your commitment towards stellar service, so that is what speaks about the performance of Tamil Nadu, and that is how we are excited to come to Tamil Nadu. Apart from that, our partnership with IFCCI, which has also helped us to take this decision. IFCCI has been our really good partner in setting up our current building in Pune, where we have two plants in the nearby location in Chakan. So that is what we plan to do in Tamil Nadu. Our idea is to have an investment of approximately 100 crore to set up the manufacturing, where we are able to employ around 250 people in next 2 to 3 years. And our idea is to serve all our markets, not only the automotive, but all our markets, and also to do export, because we do a lot of exports to countries like Korea, Southeast Asia, and our idea is to do this exports from Tamil Nadu, considering the good opportunity and the nice port in Tamil Nadu. So with this, sir, I will like to present our LOI to Mr. Neeraj Mittal. So I once again want to congratulate IFCCI for conducting this conclave. And over to you, Priyank.
Thank you so much, Mr. Padharia. And thank you so much, Dr. Mittal,
Welcome
for showing us.
Mr. Manish.
Thank you, sir. I'm sure we will be meeting soon.
Great. I now invite Mr. Florent Strobel, Managing Director of Cryoler Asia Pacific, to share a few words and submit the letter of intent to Dr. Neeraj Mittal.
Good afternoon to all, and thank you for the IFCCI for their invitation today and this wonderful conclave. Especially good afternoon to Mr. Mittal and Mrs. Consul of France. So I will introduce Cryoler. Cryoler is a subsidiary of the Air Liquide Group, which is 67,000 people operating in more than 80 countries all over the world. The turnover is around 20 billion euro in gas services and supplies mainly. In this company, Cryoler is historically based in France and manufactures equipment for this business that are gas storage tanks and trailers. And they settled a new plant in 2010 in India, this Cryoler Asia Pacific. It's located in Kadamalai Puttur. It's a small village in between Chennai and Pondicherry, close to Tindivanam. After 10 years of continuous growth, we reached our maximum production capacity. So as the group strongly believes in India's and Tamil Nadu's potential, they decided to double our production capacity while setting an extension in our actual site. That's the content of the LOI. So we have this huge project of 70 crores rupees, and that will lead us to also to hire around 70 more employees. So I can share with you this LOI that we signed.
Thank you, Mr. Strobel, and welcome to Tamil Nadu.
Thank you, Mr. Mittal, and hope we can meet.
Yes, very soon.
Thank you so much, Mr. Strobel and Dr. Mittal. I'm now pleased to invite once again Mr. Vishu Mahajan, the Additional Commissioner to IC and DIC and the Managing Director of MTIB Tamil Nadu, to receive the LOI submissions, first by Mr. Santosh Ramakrishnan, Head of Sales and Operations Systems at Preciya Molan India Private Limited. I welcome Mr. Ramakrishnan to share a few words.
Can someone confirm if I'm audible, please?
You are.
Yeah, perfect. Good afternoon, everybody. So this has been a really successful event of Indo-French Conclave of the investment of the Indo-French companies in Tamil Nadu. And coming to the LOI, I would just give a small introduction about what Preciya Molan as a group is. Preciya Molan is a worldwide company specialized in industrial weighing. So as you know, weighment goes into every sector, right? From food, pharma, chemical, oil and gas. So we are a wide range of industries which we address. Preciya Molan as a group is over 70-year-old company, headquartered in Privas in France, which is close to Lyon. We have operational companies in more than 21 countries and operating through agents in over 100 countries. So we are mainly a weighing instrument manufacturer and a service provider. In India, Preciya Molan India has been formed from 1996. In India, we are there operating for last 25 years, headquartered in Tamil Nadu, in Chennai in Tamil Nadu. And the one special point which I want to mention is this has been a good example of a joint venture in India, where between Preciya Molan is a French multinational company and a family in Tamil Nadu. And I am part of the second generation of this family who had been taking care of the business. And I'm continuing the entrepreneur role as a second generation family. So we have been partnering with the Indo-French company for the last 25 years. In 2015, we had established the first manufacturing facility in Tamil Nadu. And we are now exporting many of the components related to weighing, not only to Southeast Asia, but now also to Asia Pacific and Middle East. So this, after the Make in India campaign, and a good governance from 2011. We had the French team had confidence on investing in Tamil Nadu, and they wanted to expand. So if you see the last 5 years, we have been expanding very rapidly in the state of Tamil Nadu. After the first manufacturing plant in 2015, we opened a second plant in the same locality in 2017. And even during the COVID, because our supplies, Wayment goes a lot into the pharmaceutical and the food processing industries. So even during COVID, my team was very active. And last year, despite the COVID period, in 2020, we opened a third manufacturing facility in the same locality. In India, we have over 60,000 installations and across different range of industries. We fall into the medium MSME category. So this is the interest, and we show interest continuously to keep investing in Tamil Nadu. And we are very sure in the coming years, we will also open a fourth manufacturing plant, which will give more employment and at the same time, being a successful state and a state which welcomes the entrepreneurs and the foreign investments, we have very strong confidence that we will continue to invest. So now I will present the LOI on the screen. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Santosh. Looking forward to meeting you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ramakrishnan. I now invite Mr. Vignesh Janaki Raman, who is the director of Timak Agro India, to virtually submit the letter of intent to Mr. Mahajan. Over to you, Mr. Janaki Raman.
Thank you, Priyank. A very good afternoon to all the dignitaries and all the attendees for today's event. And thank you, IFCCI, for giving us this platform and this fantastic opportunity to share a little bit of our Indian brief, I can put it that way. So Timak Agro is the legacy business and the agri-inputs vertical of the Roulier Group, which is a 60-year-old French family-run first-generation business. We have over 8,000 employees across the world, present in 40 countries just on the Timak Agro line, with a consolidated revenue of about 2 billion euros. Timak Agro India, if I can put it, is the latest jewel in the crown of Timak Agro for the Roulier Group. And we've just about commenced operations starting October 2020, realizing India being one of the biggest consumers of fertilizers and inputs, agriculture being the lifeline of the Indian economy. The group decided to enter the country with someone who's bicultural, myself. And it's a sense of pride and honor for me that we picked Tamil Nadu as our first target business unit to commence our commercial operations, and also realizing the potential of growth in the country and the industry friendliness of the state. We also do intend to set up our own manufacturing facility within the first 2 years of commencing operations, with a vision of expanding across the country in the coming 5 years. In this context, I thank again for the opportunity, and I would like to virtually present our LOI.
Thank you, Mr. Vignesh.
Thank you very much, sir. I look forward to meeting with you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Janaki Raman and Mr. Mahajan. Thank you so much, Payal, Sumit, and the Consul General, Ms. Park. I'd now like to welcome Ms. Sai Sudha Chandrasekharan, the Senior Assistant Vice President at Invest India, to share a special address on the investment landscape of Tamil Nadu and the central government support for French companies.
Good afternoon, everybody. Just checking if I'm audible before I start speaking. Priyanka, am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Okay, great. Okay, so good afternoon, everybody. It's such a pleasure to be here today at this Indo-French Investment Conclave. It's special to me for 2 reasons. Number one is I hail from Tamil Nadu, so it does make the event very special to me. And number 2 is I'm extremely happy to represent Tamil Nadu, which is one of our top states in the country today. So thank you very much for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to share the stage with Madam Lise, Dr. Mittal, Mr. Johan, and Mr. Samuel, and Ms. Priyanka as well. So I'll give you a little bit of an introduction about me. I'm Sai Sudha, and I'm from Invest India. Invest India is the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency set up under DPIIT Ministry of Commerce. So we are a not-for-profit organization under Ministry of Commerce whose sole mandate is to help the foreign investors and handhold them when they are coming to India. We work with all the states very closely, and Tamil Nadu is one of our leading partner states with whom we work very regularly. So before we get on to a lot of, the leaders and visionaries that talked before me, talked a lot about the industrial policies, incentives, and subsidies. But I would like to start off by mentioning a couple of the softer aspects that has not yet been touched upon, which I would very much like to bring to the stage as well. The availability of world-class social infrastructure that is available in Tamil Nadu today stands almost unparalleled in the country. So the availability and the quality of healthcare, schools, malls, parks, recreation centers, weekend activities, everything today here are of absolute international standard. So much to the extent I'd like to quote a small an example to you all. So I used to live outside of India for a very long time, and I moved back last year. So when I came back to India and when I put my daughter in a school, I was very, very pleasantly surprised of the composition of the expat children in the school, and the amount of the French infusion into the school was absolutely remarkable and splendid. The amount of French children studying in a school in Chennai was so much so that the school has actually a separate curriculum for the French children studying in the school. So Indian history, geography, science, math, and all the subjects are taught to the children in Chennai school in French. So that is the amount of, how much of importance, not only the government, even the private sector, schools, healthcare, all of us are willing to go a step further to honor the French friendship that we are having. So on that note, let me go on to the other aspects that I wanted to talk about. Mr. Priyank, I'm going to ask you, was I audible? Was everything okay? Because the video here for me is frozen. Was everything all right in your end? At Invest India, a bilateral fast-track mechanism under the leadership of DPIIT has been set up for investment facilitation, which was signed by both the countries last year in November. The idea of this fast-track mechanism is to facilitate issues of companies both sides, Indian companies in France, and more importantly, the French companies in India on a speedy basis. So that is one thing. Today at Invest India, we have an exclusive desk to manage the investors, to help the investors from France into India. We are about a 7-member team, the Western Europe team, of which there is a specialized team for taking care of French investors. The French and Indian company, industrial relations go way back in the 1600s when the French East India Company was set up here in India for the first time. After which today, hundreds of companies, French companies, have set up shop here, like Madame Lise very beautifully pointed out. Today, the French companies generate over 350,000 employment in our country today, and all the companies account for over 20 billion turnover. So companies like BNP Paribas, Renault, Saint-Gobain, Schneider, Airbus, L'Oreal, Capgemini, so on and so forth, multiple companies today develop the friendship between France and India, specifically Tamil Nadu. It's also very heartening to note the list of all the MOUs French companies have signed since May last year till today, when the whole world was reeling under the pandemic and a lot of the states and many country economies were trying to put their basics in place. Tamil Nadu is one of the leading states that went ahead and not only had the basics intact, the industrial basics, the operations intact, but it was a very few states that went ahead and signed MOUs worth crores and crores of rupees, of which a significant portions were contributed by France. So that is also something to note and acknowledge in this August forum as well. So some of the initiatives that I want to bring to your notice to the French companies here is that I'd like you to, first thing is the corporate tax reduction. It was a landmark reform by our finance minister that was announced a few months ago, many months ago, in September 2019. It was reducing the corporate tax to 15%. It is the lowest in all of Asia. It is one of the highly competitive tax rates that you will find across the globe. So that is a landmark milestone reform as well. The second is the introduction of the production link incentives that the central government has offered. Initially, it was rolled out for one sector, the electronic sector. Today, 10 new sectors have been added. The goal for the production link incentive is sort of, the aim is to give the companies incentives on incremental sales from products manufactured in domestic units. This is A, to help them increase their manufacturing, and B, to also help them manufacture in our domestic units as well. Today, the amount of incentives that the companies can get from these 10 sectors is over 27 billion US dollars. You can actually get them over the period of 5 years. India and France have a deep cooperation in the defense sector as well. I'd like to point out that the FDI limit. All right, thank you. I'd also like to point out the FDI limit in defense manufacturing under the automatic route was earlier 49%, but today it stands at about 74%. So today the government of India and all the state governments understand the value of developing the manufacturing ecosystem as well. So to upgrade, there is a policy in place to upgrade the industrial infrastructure as well. Schemes will soon be implemented in the states for industrial cluster upgradation of common infrastructure facilities as well as the connectivity. Your National Land Bank has been enabled today, and hassle-free land acquisition for company can be sought after as well. There is a national infrastructure pipeline as well. We are expected to have about $1.4 trillion worth investments are being planned for the infrastructure creation and upgradation in the country. Before I finish, there are two key important initiatives that were rolled out in June last year. One is the Empowered Group of Secretaries, followed by the Project Development Cell. So in June, the cabinet approved a group which, whose mandate is to identify some of the key issues and bottlenecks that are there for the French companies in India, and to speed track them and help in speedy recovery, speedy resolution of the same. The second is the project development cell, where this empowered group identifies and develops investable projects to be offered, this opportunity to be offered to the global investors in the country. So without much ado, I'm going to pass on the mic to Mr. Priyank. So thank you very much for this opportunity. Feel free to get in touch with us if you have any questions. My name is Sai Sudha, agency of the Government of India. Thanks, Priyank. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Sai Sudha. In the interest of time, we'll be playing the video shared by our partners for the event ELCOT, the Electronics Corporation of Tamil Nadu, a little later in the event. We, however, thank you for supporting this event and partnering with IFCCI. We now move on to the last part of the session on electronics manufacturing and ITES. I'd like to welcome Mr. D. Ravichandran, IAS, who is the Managing Director of ELCOT, to speak on the topic Electronics Infrastructure, Advantage Tamil Nadu, and set the context to the succeeding discussions.
Hello. Sir, good afternoon to everyone. I am happy to share my insights of electronics infrastructure in Tamil Nadu. The state of Tamil Nadu has won a recognition of being a prominent and meritorious state in India. It has its reputation of being a state with a large number of industries, retaining #1 position. It has 4 large ports and 4 important international airports, providing its existence in the 3rd largest state of exports in India. Tamil Nadu offers good connectivity through sea, air, and land, and can access any part of the country or world using the transport of your choice. The climate is conducive to year-round port operations, which is the major point in favor of Tamil Nadu. It has a good network of banks and financial institutions. In addition, it has the modern telecommunication infrastructure. The implementation of rural broadband project, the BharatNet Phase 2 project in the state, with the investment of around 15 crore, and through which the 12,524 gram panchayats and 17,762 revenue villages is connected through optical fiber network. Tamil Nadu is already a home to many leading electronics and manufacturers, and at present the 2nd largest manufacturing hub in country is accounts for 16% of national production of electronics and hardware. The state government assures it would encourage the electronic system design and manufacturing sector and going all around to emerge as #1 hub in electronics manufacturing in the country. The state of Tamil Nadu continues to boost its business environment for manufacturing investors. With our industry-friendly policies, the Tamil Nadu government believes the COVID-19 outbreak has opened up abundant opportunities for it to attract the investment in the state of Tamil Nadu. The Honorable Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu on 7th September 2020 unveiled the Tamil Nadu Electronics Hardware Manufacturing Policy 2020 to facilitate foreign investment in electronic system design and manufacturing and promote the growth of homegrown startup enterprises. The new policy is expected to increase the state electronics industry output to 100 billion by 2025. Here there are key highlights of the policy. The policy undertakes skill training for more than 1 lakh people by 2024 to meet the incremental human resource requirement projected by the National Skill Development Corporation for the state in electronics and hardware sector. Aligned with the National Policy of Electronics 2019, the state government will provide special support for developing core competitiveness in the subsectors. All incentives offered by the state government to units in the electronics manufacturing industry shall be in addition to the incentives offered by the Government of India to those units. The government will formulate the special package of incentives for ESTM units and the MSME sector. The core investments, the policy has identified districts in 3 categories. For investment worth 200 to 500 crore capacity, subsidy in category A districts would be in 15%, in category B district 20%, and category C is 25%. For investment over 500 crore capacity, the subsidy for A category districts 18%, B category districts 24%, and C category district 30%. I request the industry to take advantage of for the investors friendly policies of the government of Tamil Nadu and establish new IT industries in emerging technology like blockchain, artificial intelligence, and electronics manufacturing hubs, thereby increase employment opportunity in the state. ELCOT is constituted to the main objective of assisting development of electronics in the state. Since inception 1977, ELCOT has contributed to the growth of electronic industry in the state by promoting many joint ventures, associate ventures, etc. Keeping with the trend post-liberalization and globalization, ELCOT gradually re-engineered itself as a procurement agency, primary for electronics and ITES products and services. Later, ELCOT branched out to the established IT special economic zones. It has set up 8 IT special economic zones in Chennai and Tier 2 cities, Coimbatore, Madurai, Tiruchirappalli, Salem, Tirunelveli, and Hosur. In conclusion, I like to state that the mission statement of the Department of Information Technology, Government of Tamil Nadu says, elevating Tamil Nadu as a destination of choice for IT investors across the world and being the preferred choice for procurement of IT product and services. Let us collectively strive hard to achieve it. One more thing, this new policy initiative of being promoted by the electronic manufacturing clusters in Tamil Nadu nearby Chennai, Kanjipuram district. We have 2 clusters around 200 acre land of electronic manufacturing clusters are in the pipeline. We are like to invite the investors, those who are having expertise in IT and IT enabled services to the Tamil Nadu to make Tamil Nadu is number 1 in electronics and electronic enabled services. Thank you for all and best wishes for this conclave. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ravichandran. We now move on to a panel discussion on the strategy to create an electronics and ITES ecosystem in Tamil Nadu. I'm pleased to welcome the moderator of the session, Mr. Anand Khetan, who is the partner and head indirect taxes at Rodel & Partner Consulting Private Limited, and the panelists, Mr. Theophilus Mitsakuls, who is the managing director at BNP Paribas, Mr. Rajesh Desai, who's the CEO and Managing Director at Lyra, Mr. Nitin Bakshi, who's the Vice President of India Supply Chain Operations at Schneider Electric. I request everyone on this panel to keep their videos on. And now I pass the baton to Mr. Anand Khetan to set the context to the discussion and thereafter commence the panel.
Thank you, Priyank. Can you please confirm if I'm audible or not?
Yes, you are, crystal clear.
Thank you. Thanks again for the introduction, Priyank, and a very good afternoon from my side to all our panelists, member companies, and participants. I welcome you all to the Indo-French Investment Conclave. Today, I'll be moderating the discussion on the topic strategies to create electronics ITES ecosystem in Tamil Nadu. Before we begin the discussion with our esteemed panel, I have been asked to give my views on opportunities for electronics manufacturing and ITES sector in Tamil Nadu. Well, electronics sector is the world's fastest growing industry, and it continues to transform lives, businesses, and economies across the globe. The global electronics market is estimated to be over $2 trillion. In the last 4 years, India has witnessed 2 times growth in the consumer electronics sector and is estimated to become a $4 billion industry by 2025. Out of this, consumer electronics, including mobile phones and computer hardware, is expected to be around 60%, while industrial electronics is expected to be 40%. The electronics industry already directly and indirectly employs between 15 to 20 million people in India. Along with manufacturing capabilities, India is also the fastest growing consumer electronics market in the Asia Pacific region. Rising disposable income and declining electronic prices have led to a rise in consumption of electronic devices in India. By 2030, India is estimated to contribute 23% of the global demand for electronics. Building a vibrant electronics manufacturing ecosystem is central to the Make in India goal set forth by the Government of India. With 100% FDI and various incentive schemes, both the central and the state governments are determined to provide conducive environment for the growth of the industry. The state government and especially the Tamil Nadu government has introduced key policies to promote investments in the electronic manufacturing sector in the state, which have already been explained by our esteemed speakers. These policies have certainly shown results, which is apparent from the presence of large industry players like Samsung, Panasonic, Dell, Lenovo, Flex, and Foxconn. Presence of two large special economic zones for electronics and hardware manufacturing have only augmented the downstream industries, including OEMs, and created an entire ecosystem of end-to-end supply chain. However, the outbreak of COVID-19 put a spanner in the works, and the upward steep rise in manufacturing saw a downfall. The IMF announced the lowering of global GDP by 3% in 2020. Brands and manufacturers reduced production and postponed the introduction of new products, which in turn caused disruption in the supply chains. To combat this, the government notified some major schemes. The most important of this was obviously the PLI scheme, which has been introduced to boost large-scale domestic manufacturing in the sector and offers a financial incentive in the electronics supply chain. Also, the scheme for promotion of manufacturing of electronic components and semiconductors, the SPECS, was introduced, which aims to strengthen the manufacturing ecosystem for electronic components and semiconductors. Even in the recent union budget, the central government has taken steps such as increase in customs duty on specified electronic products, which might increase the cost in the short term, but at the same time would make electronics manufacturing much cheaper in India. Moving on to the next sector, when we speak about ITES, it cannot be missed out that India is the world's largest business process management destination. India is also the #1 sourcing destination, with it being the second largest startup ecosystem in the world. India has a latent pool of almost 500,000 people, making this sector the second fastest growing data center in the Asia Pacific. The contribution of ITES sector to the growth and development of India has been extraordinary. ITES industry in India has remarkably contributed around 8% to the GDP and also helped in foreign exchange earnings and employment generation. NASSCOM has reported that ITES industries in India annually grows at the rate of about 25% and encourages nearly 2 million jobs. As a market, the industry expects 850 million internet users by 2025. The JAM Trinity, which is the Jan Dhan Aadhaar Mobile, has been an enabler for digitalization across industries, and India is a preferred destination for global R&D. The favorable government policies such as Digital India, with technology transitions in the form of rollout of 5G network and IoT, are the driving force for the rise of the industry in India. With 11% share of total IT investments in India, the state of Tamil Nadu has been a preferred IT destination. Looking at the opportunities and massive availability of skilled resources, world-leading organizations like IBM, Cognizant, TCS, HCL, World Bank, and Accenture have established their base here. ITES parks developed by ELCOT across the state over 1,300 acres and massive investments by the state government in the internet and the IT infrastructure have greatly aided in attracting these organizations and creating this ITES ecosystem. To discuss and elaborate on this and provide us with strategic outlook into creation of electronics and IT ecosystem in the state of Tamil Nadu, we have our extremely experienced panel of experts who would provide us with insights and share their experiences, which will aid in understanding the best industry practices. I welcome the panelists again. Thank you. Good.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Continuing with our focus on the ITITS, I would like to ask my first question to Theo. Hello, Theo. I believe BNP Paribas GSO was founded in Chennai back in 2008. In the ITS context, would you like to elaborate on the learnings and developments during the past 12 years of growing GSO in Chennai?
Thank you, and good afternoon to all our participants and viewers. Indeed, BNP Paribas Global Securities Operations, or GSO, as we call it, was established in Chennai in 2008. Of course, saying this, let me also highlight that the overall presence of BNP Paribas Group in India spans quite longer, as we recently commemorated 160 years in the country. As regards GSO, we are part of business process outsourcing. We are part of IT-enabled services. And the reason we exist, the reason the company was set up back in 2008, is a combination of, I would say, of strategic outsourcing initiatives, of business continuity management and extreme risk scenario mitigation, as well as, of course, cost optimization. So we started with around 25 people that we were supporting in what we call banking services operations, a flagship branch of BNP Paribas Security Services in Sydney, Australia. So when I see the situation today we employ more than 2,000 people. Besides the support to Sydney, we are also covering 15 major markets in Asia Pacific and in Europe. So our office is open 24 hours a day, and we have colleagues working in the various shifts. And pretty much besides the banking service, we offer all the gamut of the product offer of BNP Paribas Security Services to our clients, be it net asset valuation, middle office, reporting, and anything in between. So this has been, I would say, a success growth story for the past years, more or less 10% year on year. And when I go back to try to see some of the key learnings on this, I will start with the people. So what we have found in India and what we have found in Tamil Nadu, great workers, people come in the office with a smile. Every day they try to do better and better. Great stamina, great resilience. I would also say great commitment and loyalty. Pretty much we have people from the first day that we started being here with us. And every month we commemorate and celebrate people completing 10 years in GSO. So this is a good celebration that we are proud for. Plus, we have an infrastructure here in Tamil Nadu with high quality educational institutions where we are able to find well-qualified graduates to fulfill our growth expansion. Then it's the company itself and the French culture, I would say. BNP Paribas is a French company, and as a French company, is quite people-centric in its approach. We care about people. We never do what we call hire and fire, but on the opposite, we focus on training our staff, providing the right career development opportunities. And I will say that this people-centric approach is quite complementary to the work ethos in India. So it has been a great bonding managing this together. And then I would also say that overall in Chennai, we have found a safe haven in growing our business in a healthy and fruitful manner. No major distractions, and the relationship with authorities has always been quite collaborative and supportive. So I would say in essence that it has been a win-win so far for us.
Great. This is really great.
Over to you, Anand.
Thanks. Mr. Desai, on to you. I'm sure Lyra is also using ITES in India. What role is Lyra India playing to move towards the nation's initiative of Digital India?
Yeah, so basically, thank you so much, Anil. Thanks for helping me being in this panel, and thanks. It's a great pleasure to be sharing stage with Mr. Theophilos and Mr. Anil also. Yes, so Lyra has been in India for the past 14 years. Lyra is a technology company providing digital payments. digital payment. And we have been successful doing that in rural India as well. There may be the tier 1 cities, like tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, so trying to reach out to as many rural places and ensuring that the ambition of digital India is met. So when you specifically ask about how LIDA India is playing a role towards the nation's digital initiative, yes, I would like to stress on a project of Darpan, which is basically Department of Post. So what the LIDA India has done, it basically has enabled all the postmen on the ground across 120 post offices in all the cities across India, including the rural villages. And in fact, the post offices are more towards rural area. So we have enabled all the post offices, postmen to be digitally effective, which ensures that LIDA has worked with DOP in ensuring that they meet the financial inclusion program which the government is looking at. And LIDA has used its own last mile connectivity project effectively in promoting this in digital India through this particular program called as Darpan. So LIDA has acted as a managed connectivity solution provider for this project, whereby LIDA solution things are used in the micro ATM or the POS devices, which the postman carries, to all the parts across pan India, especially in rural villages where there's a issue of a network. So, in India, probably you have a huge problem when it comes to connectivity of telco network in rural India, especially rural India. So having said that, LIDA solution has effectively enabled the postmen and Department of Post basically to meet this demand of going the digital India way. So it has increased the rural reach of Department of Post, enabled Department of Post to increase traffic of all financial remittances, saving accounts, opening saving accounts, the rural post life insurance, cash certificates, improved mail operations by allowing or automating booking, delivery of accountable. So India has increased revenue of the retail post business, which was a huge challenge for post offices. So LIDA has played an instrumental role in that. LIDA has also helped banks to reach its financial inclusion and banking the unbanked program by creating solutions to meet these demands from banks and the government, and helping the banks to meet the Digital India ambition or meet the Digital India initiative, which these banks have been aspiring for, along with RBI and along with the government of India. But this project Darpan is one of the key projects of the Indian government, which LIDA has worked on to enable last mile banking services to the poorest and to the remotest in India. So this is what LIDA has done in terms of reaching to the rural masses and enabling digital India, not across only in Indian cities, the tier 1, tier 2, but also in rural cities or rural villages all across India.
Great. As they say, delivering it where it really matters. I really appreciate and thank you for your comments. And I would like to now stay with the discussion on digitalization and ask Mr. Bakshi. Sir, India has been traditionally labor intensive and has been lacking the digital push. How easy is it to change the legacy manufacturing setups to make them more globally competitive? I mean, is digitalization heavy investment?
So, yeah, thanks for inviting me to this discussion. Very, very important and, most talked about topic of digitalization or digitization, in India, right? And I think as India is moving towards digital connectivity, right, it's important for the manufacturers like us, right, who are into energy management, who provides the products into the energy sector, are also preparing ourselves for a digital connectivity, both in terms of our product and in terms of our processes. So when you talk about, we have factory in Chennai, right? In Tamil Nadu, and we have factories all across India in different states as well. And I think primitive way of manufacturing is something which is no more cost effective, number one, right? Of course, it costs more. At the same time, what customers are expecting, more importantly, is lesser and lesser lead times, right? They need the product right at your doorstep, in few minutes rather, in certain days, in certain point of time. So it's very important to have our processes also digitalized or digitized in terms of meeting these customer expectations, both in terms of cost and also in terms of delivery. And the above all is most important is the quality, right? Because here, when we talk about where we have to give an employment to a lot of people, right? One is about the skill upgradation, rights, and the second thing is the processes should help them to enable the quality products to the customer, right? And our primitive ways are really more manual. They're more labor intensive. They're more prone to mistakes, right? And there's a lot of manual effort to really identify what efficiencies we can drive, right, in terms of optimizing our costs. So digitization typically is helping us in that way to really reduce all the three major aspects, when I talked about quality, cost, and delivery, right? And that's what is the customer expecting for. Now, when you come to a cost, right? Is it cost? Is it very costly affair? I would say it's more about ROI, right? As a return on investment, right? Yes, initially it requires some kind of a investment, all right, because you need to upgrade or upgrade your IT systems, because there's a lot of data inflow happening, and there are certain assets in the organization, right, which may not be able to connect digitally, right? So obviously there are a lot of tools available. We ourselves in Schneider specialize in connecting a lot of asset management in the companies, also in various industries, right? And when you enable them, right, and then they talk to each other, the ROI becomes much more effective. I mean, just to give you an example, right? I mean, we have a factory in Chennai. It's quite digital factory. We have all our assets, machines which are producing those products. Typically the MCBs, the miniature circuit breakers, and all used in all home and distribution network. The machines are connected digitally, right? They talk to each other, right? They stop when there's something going wrong, right? Not then when the defect has happened. It's typically an indication when it is going to out of control, right? It gives you a time, how much time it takes to make a product digitally, right? It also, all our energy which is flowing into these assets, right? They're all connected through the meters which are talking to each other, right? Where we drive a lot of energy efficiency into the plant. Now, just to give you a stats, right? I mean, when we try to connect our assets in our factory in Chennai, typically, through our EcoStruxure, which is our platform of digitization, right? Where we connected all the powers, used in different machines and all. In the first year itself, we were able to save around 20% of the energy cost, right? That's huge, right? I mean, and year on year, we are able to manage our energy by almost like at least 8 to 10% year on year. And also, when we say Schneider, Schneider is very committed to sustainability, right, toward the environment and all. And this comes very blended thing, where we save the cost of electricity. At the same time, we contribute to the sustainability of the planet as well. Now, the other thing which I talk about, connected machines, where the labor upgradation or labor skill is there, we are able to help the labor productivity efficiency of around 8 to 10%, right, year on year, right? I mean, we're trying to make more and more digital tools implementation in the plants. And obviously, it helps to make more competitive products, because when you are in India, right, you need to compete with the global world, right? We remember, we were competing with China some time back, they were very competitive, Now, we have to be global. That means we need to really put a lot of effort in terms of making sure that we provide the products which are competitive in the market, both in the cost of, in terms of quality, cost, and delivery. And I think this is where, the ROI comes into the picture. So initially, yes, it will be some kind of investment, but in the long term, it will drive huge efficiency in terms of, the product cost, in terms of availability to the customer. And that's what I believe and we are striving towards.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you for your feedback, Mr. Bakshi. Let's move to another important dimension in the current economic scenario, which is innovation and smart technologies. India recently has jumped from 81st to 52nd position in Global Innovation Index. In this context, I'd like to ask the next question to Mr. Desai. Can you explain what is the role of ITES in fintech innovations? I mean, how do IT-enabled innovations shape the financial sector?
Yeah, and a very important question. Basically, fintech, financial technology, is no more what was perceived as a back office function, a back office department of any organization. It has grown multifold. Fintech basically is a technology-enabled financial innovation. It originates from the intersection of technology and finance, but it actually represents the inclusion of digital technologies into business, enabling business to innovate. That's what fintech is all about, and it has helped out to carve out, automate, rearrange all the parts of a value-added chain of a traditional financial intermediary. So whatever was being used in those earlier traditional methodology, fintech has come out and has basically enhanced and rearranged the entire part of the value-added chain, ensuring that whatever was done earlier is done more effectively and productively now. So basically, though the fintech is tremendously or significantly evolved with a considerable effort from institutions, financial institutions, startups, the governments, private institutions. However, innovations in electronics and ITS can definitely and substantially add a lot of value and bring a lot of transformation to these digital financial services. I strongly believe in that. And I've always believed that ITS and digital payments, when it comes to it, are deeply correlated, as digital transformation is a core part of ITES. India is on its way to become a less cash economy, or rather a cashless economy, as we look at it. So almost all top tier cities, the grade A, grade B cities, are familiar with doing payments online, digital payments. They're comfortable with it. They don't mind using them in their day-to-day lives, even when the pandemic is over or pre-pandemic days. The front end of making the payments is quite easy, or looks easy though, as compared to the back end processing, which consists of the entire payment infrastructure. So the payment processing firms need to be robust and strong at the back end, or sturdy at the back end, to ensure that the entire fintech ecosystem delivers the desired results as it needs to give out. So you see, digital payment has been the biggest buzzword in the whole of payment space in India, after the government spoke of Digital India, and after with the cash being driven out and demonetization coming into effect. So digital payments has seen a momentous growth in India in the last 4 to 5 years. The number of transactions, payment transactions, the offline, the online, the via POS, via MPOS, via e-commerce, has grown up significantly. The value of the transactions has also grown multifold. So the digital payment acceptance infrastructure has also seen a rapid growth in the last few years. It started with the acceptance of cards being used maybe in huge retail establishments, but eventually even the small local shops, local mom and pop shops, or local kirana shops, have started adopting it, accepting it by the introduction of digital wallets, UPIs, the QRs. So they've started accepting digital payments, as the adoption and acceptance at all levels has become quite easier. So this has greatly improved the ease of use of customer, as mobile phone their own mobile phones. So while these acceptance modes have increased, India has definitely moved towards a less cash society at a tremendously faster pace. But there is still a segment of the market, maybe in rural villages, which still remains untapped. With the recent regulated developments, with a lot of transformations in technology, this will definitely result in some changes required in the physical infrastructure. But yes, definitely we need to move on towards the rural villages, as we need to move on. So technology has leapfrogged in a way from branch banking to e-banking, and now mobile banking. So innovations in ITS definitely has enabled transition of India to a less cash society. However, we are very far from creating a very robust very strong digital payments ecosystem. When we talk about the entire ecosystem as such, there are still several structural challenges that are hindering the growth of digital payments in our country. ITS definitely in the fintech innovations and IT-enabled innovations should definitely and significantly help India shape the financial sector as we move ahead progressively as a nation. Yeah, that's my response to you.
As they say, innovation and technologies is not the future. It's already our present. Mr. Bakshi, staying with this topic, I mean, does this also apply to electronics manufacturing and supply chains? I mean, what are the benefits which India can see with the adoption of smarter manufacturing setups, including supply chains?
No, I think very much relevant what Mr. Desai mentioned, right? In financial sectors, we know we are digitally very getting connected, right, with all digital payments and using our mobile phone. Everything is on that, right? You talk about any financial thing is on the mobile. I think in manufacturing also we are doing the similar way, because as I said, is gone are the ways when you are doing everything manual, right? Now it becomes more smarter, right? And that is why we are creating more smart manufacturing factories, right? And that's the concept of the smart factory concept which we have launched. And I think in line with that, as I was talking about, in my previous discussion, right? Connecting machines, connecting people, connecting assets, right? Ultimately is the era of new ways of working, new ways of manufacturing, right? Ultimately, it is going to reduce the cost, right, and improve the quality and provide better service to the customers. Now, the smart factory concept is typically associated to the end-to-end traceability. You talk about a digital app like Amazon, right? I mean, you order a product, you get the traceability when it is coming and when it is going to arrive, and it gives the customer satisfaction. Now, for a manufacturing, a similar way we have devised in our manufacturing plant, where we have a traceability of each and every component and each and every product, when it is going to be delivered and at what stage of manufacturing it is, right? At a glance, a shop floor person, right, or a shop floor manager can analyze, my customer order is at what stage of manufacturing, and and give a right information to the customer, and it is going to reach to him at the destination. I think that's something which is in line with what the digital in financial sector or the service sector we're talking about is apple to apple into the manufacturing as well. Now, apart from that, as I said, in order to be competitive, we have to maintain our cost or reduce our cost, right? Because the product, we are competing with a global market, right? Now, all these initiatives are smart factory initiatives, right? Where we are trying to put as much as digitization into the picture, right? We are trying to reduce as much as the manual intensive. That does not mean we are trying to reduce the people, right? If we're making people more smarter, we are upgrading their skills, right? For them to perform better. And that's what is going to drive the better product quality for our global customers, right? And that's another way of looking at it, how the digitization is going to connect those dots and apple to apple provide those benefits to the customers. Now, I think the other thing very important, as I also talked about, is the lead times, right? How faster we can provide the product to the customers, right? And at the same time, once we provide the product to the customer, our product should be also smarter enough to talk to the the application where it is being used, and provide a lot of inputs to the customers where they are able to see whether I need to do. I mean, you remember there were the ways of predictive maintenance, right? I mean, I would say predictive maintenance in manufacturing is gone, right? You don't need to do a predictive maintenance when your product itself is going to tell you, look, I am about to get something, dead in some time, or I need some upgradation. This product itself tells you. That becomes more predictive analytics, right? Or predictive maintenance. I think that's the way we have to look at it, how we are going to ultimately provide better service to the customer. The customer is happy. He's wanting to buy your products. He's wanting to adapt your product, right? It's important is to change the mindset of the customer as well, right? At the same time. So this is how the manufacturing is actually going to drive the changing the mindset of the people of using the more adaptive products, right? Which are more smarter, right? At the same time, we as a manufacturer are providing the better cost, better quality, and timely product to the customers. And that's how I relate this digitization in that way in the manufacturing.
Great. I think this was very, very enlightening. Now, the current pandemic has taught us to be prepared for adversaries. Therefore, I think it is very relevant for all of us to understand how some industry leaders have dealt with the situation. Therefore, I will request Theo to please share his experience on this. I mean, as a bank, how did BNP Paribas manage the high quality operations delivery and enable the staff to work from home?
With a lot of stress to start with. That was indeed a challenging time. It was a terra incognita for all of us, I guess. A management decision we took early on was that we have to focus on maintaining continuity for business. This is why we are here. But we cannot do that compromising the health and safety of our people. And people understood that very early on. So when we defined our action plan to send our staff to work from home, nobody came back and say, why this and why that? But they went straight on to try to execute the plan, having the right level of trust, alignment, and speed. So we were able to send 90% of our people to contribute to the daily work remotely connected within a week. And for this, we have been assisted quite a lot, both from the infrastructure, the telecom infrastructure that we enjoy here in Tamil Nadu, but also I would like to give a special praise to the French consulate that was quite active at the time, not just, I will say, sharing directives, but taking actions. I recall that at the time we had received as part of our plan around 1,000 laptops in a storehouse in Pondicherry. And we needed these laptops to share with our people so that they can start working from home as fast as possible without commuting, without putting themselves to risk, and so on. And with a lot of initiative from the French consulate and a lot of understanding and support from the local authorities, we were able to get such a license. We sent a truck to pick up such laptops. We shared with our people, and we moved on quite fruitfully. It has been something very positive, and I will say that given the overall reliance of the BNP Paribas Group in India, there was a lot of concern as the situation was moving towards a lockdown, and we were in a position to keep sharing more and more positive milestones on the progress. So in the end, again, it was a win-win thanks to the good organization and the people that we have here in Tamil Nadu.
Excellent. I mean, this is great, and it really speaks volumes of how quickly we can adapt to the changing global conditions. And I think this pandemic has really taught all of us a lot of lessons, and a lot of systems have been put in place which may, even continue after all of this is gone. Well, I think now we have discussed many things about the current economic parameters and developing infrastructure, which have significantly contributed in taking us where we are. I would now like to focus on our vision for the future. So starting with you, Theo, what's your vision for the future of the sector in India? And can you give us maybe one or two suggestions to make the ITES ecosystem even more robust?
Sure. I'm quite aligned with what I heard from my co-panelist. Focus has to be on upskilling. So today, I think we have managed well the numbers. We have managed the expansion. We have managed the quantity. The focus has to be a bit more on quality. So something I feel passionate about is not on how many more jobs we can create in India, but what type of jobs. I mean, in my business, the more and more processes we bring here, it's not just about executing them, as it has been the trend in the past years. It's about comparing, trying to create efficiencies, sharing best practices, challenging the global operating model and try to optimize it. And to do that, we have to create the right roles. And I would say in a business that career progression and development is traditionally perceived by how many people you manage, we try to put equal focus on what we call SME jobs, so subject matter experts, and to managers and leaders as agents of positive change. And this is what we will need, and this will be a focus. And for this, of course, we can be assisted from the local educational institutions too. I think today there are good links between IT-enabled service providers and universities. Sometimes I would say it's a bit about a beauty contest on the recruitment front. So what is the nicest university to recruit from? What is the best provider to work for? But as part of our corporate and social responsibility, we want to do more. We want to give more back. It is important for university students to understand early on the importance of IT-enabled services in India, in Tamil Nadu, so that we shape the right expectations, we create the right understanding on what are the drivers, what is changing, and form accordingly. And we are more than happy to support such initiatives with universities accordingly. And the other thing, it's also important for the local authorities to maintain the same, I would say, positive attitudes. The more processes in India, the more the criticality is increasing. So to give an example, when we first started, and we had around 300 people in our flagship branch in Sydney and 25 people in Chennai. If I have to go back to my colleagues in Sydney and say, tomorrow the branch will be closed because either it's state elections and we cannot have the people, or because we had an unfortunate event of the demise of a very popular politician and people are mourning in the streets and we cannot enter the building, they will be able to manage it. But if now you have 50 people in Sydney and 250 people in Chennai, and it's not just Sydney, but it's a lot of other branches as well, you reach a level of criticality that always, in order to be okay in front of your clients, you need to assess risk scenario and make sure that if for whatever reason your branch here is closed, someone will be able to do the job. So this traditionally created a ceiling. And we never cross this because then we are not accountable in front of our clients if we're not in a position to say, if this happens, who is doing the job? But now what is changing post-COVID is that the core part, I will say, of how we can manage extreme risk scenario and how we can manage our business continuity is to have people working from home. And I think this is a wonderful opportunity for India, is a wonderful opportunity for Tamil Nadu and Chennai, because the infrastructure is here, the companies are here, they will be able to absorb such expansion, and I think the potential is great. Now, saying this, you need the respective investment as well, because if we have an exponential increase of people working from home, it is absolutely essential to ensure that fast speed internet is available, not only in Chennai, but in cities outside Chennai, in the countryside as well. It is important for the local authorities to keep pre-advising as they do, and that's very positive on when expected power cuts will happen. Try to minimize such power cuts as much as possible, because of course the impact for people working from home is quite more intense, and so on. As I said, I see a lot of potential, but there is also a lot of work to be done in this area.
Very insightful and I would say important suggestions, Theo. Thank you so much for them. Mr. Desai,
thank you.
What are your thoughts on the current ecosystem and infrastructure? And in your view, what more needs to be done, especially on the policy side by the governments?
Right. So current ecosystem and infra, I think Mr. Theo just touched on that when he said, if somebody's working from home, you need the right internet, so right infra in place to be successfully and effectively and productively working. So I think that was a very valid point he made. So my thoughts on the current ecosystem infrastructure, I just said about fintech, that as long as we have a strong infrastructure, strong, sturdy, robust infrastructure at the back end to support what we do at the front end in terms of doing payments, we have moved miles ahead. But when you talk of infrastructure, I think it is also very important that ecosystem helps that infrastructure be operationally very effective. It's a very important aspect when you look at ecosystem and infrastructure, because they're two different things, So we need an ecosystem that supports the infrastructure, which eventually makes all your operations more efficient and more seamless. And as you spoke about the pandemic, every day as it is a new learning day for every day, for everybody. But when it comes to COVID, this has been a super learning experience for everybody. And when you speak of India, it has actually led to encouragement of Made in India initiative. So it has actually driven India as a nation and Indians as players to make in India and drive in India. That's a phenomenal initiative, which probably we can take as a positive from this COVID pandemic, which we have. But having the encouragement in place, having the infra being set up is not enough. To keep up with the standards of what needs to be done, the infra needs to be ramped up proportionately, and maybe more proportionately, looking at the future as well. So to deal with the infra, we have to focus on probably creating an augmented ecosystem. It might create of multiple issues, maybe like multiple connectivities, probably road connectivity, water, drainage, etc. Also importantly, connecting rural India with top tier cities, so which means connectivity might come in different forms. For example, might come in the form of transportation, maybe network, maybe telecom connectivity, maybe transaction connectivity, maybe payment transaction connectivity, etc. So there might be lots of connectivity. So as long as the ecosystem is there to collaborate, to catalyze, and to capitalize on the early stage of the early fintech ecosystem, we will have a ecosystem which can deal with the future. So a well-developed ecosystem can stimulate the local economy, can generate a lot of opportunities for growth, and as Mr. Dio said, can generate a lot of jobs for multiple sectors across the country. So basically, it will help in driving the nation's stimulate the nation as well as the local economy to multifold opportunities. So by building cross-functional organization structures, continuous capacity, skill building, active industry participation or active industry engagement, outreach, support from the government, support from regulatory frameworks, incentives, waivers, lots of development in terms of fintech can be optimized. A lot of development can be generated, and a fintech ecosystem can be developed, supporting financial and technology innovations for emerging economies, especially like India. So your second question was to do with what role the government can play, right? Yeah. So the government, obviously you have an infra in place, you have an ecosystem supporting that infrastructure in place. Where does the government come in? So the government should also create and support those who are willing to create such an ecosystem. Because in our financial or fintech ecosystem, you will have multiple players within the ecosystem. It's just not one part, but are multiple parts which effectively come together and play its part, support wherever possible. It has to ensure that resources enable job creation. It should promote startups. It should create, update policies, on funds, on regulations. It should come out with probably financial motivations, financial health, wherever possible, so that eventually we have an ecosystem for everybody, which is effective, productive, and immediately can be ramped up and can be used by everybody who plays a part in that entire ecosystem. I think Tamil Nadu as a state has itself done a phenomenal job when it comes to I think payment transactions, because I was told that the digital payment transactions per capita basis itself is phenomenally high in the state. When you talk of BHIM transactions, you have 2.189 per capita, and you have RuPay as 1.246 per capita. That's a phenomenal digital payment transactions per capita fact and figure when you speak of Tamil Nadu fact and figure as such. Even I think the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology will soon be setting up, or maybe has already set up, a center of excellence for fintech at the STPL of India in Chennai. So this association has come together to basically promote and further financial development and investment in the state, which means you have created employment opportunities, and the Center of Excellence for FinTech is already there to create these opportunities for joint growth, for joint employment growth, and for joint state growth as such. So this thought about the current ecosystem infrastructure is definitely in place. The government coming together, playing its part, and helping us to meet this ecosystem and infra will definitely boost up, not just as a nation, but also as a state in Tamil Nadu.
I think I completely agree with you and the very important suggestions. I think the governments of the day are certainly listening and taking necessary steps in this direction. Mr. Bakshi, concluding remarks from your side, sir. And by implementing all the suggestions that we discussed today about digitalization, about smart technologies, smart factories, will eventually the benefits be visible to the end customers? Because all of us are eventually interested in the market. I mean, will the end customers see, the benefit at the end of the day?
Yeah, I think very, very important question, because at the end of the day, how customers perceive all this stuff is very, very important. And I believe, and I think I've been seeing this data when we have gone to a journey of this digitization and the connectivity and all these smart initiatives which we have launched. Ultimately, customer is going to benefit, because why all these things is very important, as I mentioned in my previous remarks, is ultimately making sure we are producing a product which is cost effective, right? So customer would need three things. I mean, I've been repeating that many times. It's a quality, cost, and delivery, right? And if we are able to meet all these things through the digital initiatives, the smart initiatives, and that's what I am a firm believer, and I think we have driven through in the past many years during this journey. The end customer is definitely going to benefit, and there where it will drive a lot of the demands, and also at the same time supporting the manufacturers like us, right, with the help of the government schemes which we talked about, PLI, and obviously that's one portion of it, right, the spec schemes and all for the manufacturing industry. But at the same time, these initiatives which we launch in our plant are ultimately going to drive a long-term benefit of going into a next S-curve, basically, where ultimately the end customer is definitely going to be benefited in the long run. I would say, I would end that remark basically saying that supply chain, because ultimately manufacturing is part of the supply chain, right? The supply chain should become more and more sustainable, more and more tailored towards the customer expectation, and ultimately being more agile to the customer demand, right? Because customers are, will have obviously a lot of choices and all, and that's how the supply chain should be able to react to it. To make this agile, sustainable, and connected supply chain, we ultimately need the entire ecosystem to be digitized and connected, so that ultimately it gives the benefit to the customer by end of the day. Three areas: quality, cost, the benefit to the customer by end of the day.
We have the last 2 minutes. We have the last 2 minutes. We have the last 2 minutes.
Priyank, am I audible? Because there was a lot of echo in the last couple of seconds.
Yes, you are, Anand. I think we should, we'll just have a minute to maybe wrap up the panel.
Yes, so I think we've already wrapped up. Priyank, I would like to thank all the panelists for sharing their insights and enlightening us with their experiences. Priyank, do we have some time for a couple of questions, or should we wrap it up?
We can move on to the next part of the session right now.
Okay.
Since we are at a paucity of time.
Right. I think that's fine from my side as well. So I would again, thank IFCCI for giving me the opportunity to speak and also moderating this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Khaitan, for moderating the session, and all the panelists, Mr. Mitsakos, Mr. Desai, and Mr. Bakshi, for sharing your insights. We now have a French company share their experience being in Tamil Nadu. I'm happy to welcome Mr. Sahil Khatri, who's a Senior Associate team lead in Chennai at Rodel and Partner Consulting Private Limited, to navigate the conversation, and Mr. Florent Strobel once again, who's the managing director at Cryoler Asia Pacific.
Good evening. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Sorry.
Yeah. Yes. So thanks a lot, Priyank. And it's been a wonderful show until now. Mr. Florent, are you available? I can't see you on the screen. Mr. Florent?
Yes.
Yep. Okay. So good afternoon, sir. So you have been in India for the last almost 12 years. So why don't you give us some background about what you have done and how has your experience been in India?
Okay, so yes, Cryoler is a subsidiary of Liquid Group. Yes, settled in Kadamalai, Puttur in 2009. For the starting of in 2009, they started constructing the plant. It was finished in 2010, and the first product was delivered to customer in 2011. You can hear me, although maybe my connection is not good.
We can hear you.
We can hear you.
Loud and clear.
Yes, it's okay? Okay. So historically, the Cryoler is based in France. It's the equipment manufacturer for the Air Liquide Group for cryogenic storage tanks and trailers. And they settled the plant in 2010, so in India. What is the cryogenic industry? Is the industry of liquefied gas supplied to all kinds of industries and medical services. A cryogenic tank is a technical product. Insulation level has to be very high to maintain an extremely low temperature inside the tank. For example, it's minus 160 degrees for liquid oxygen. Understand? So it's mechanical work, but it's really technical. And to reach this high level of insulation, we are using perlite under vacuum technology. So we need to have a perfect quality of welding. So the plant was erected in 2009. So there was a great effort, was produced by Cryoler France. They sent many of their operators, of their engineers to train all the Indian employees and to have the right transfer of technology. It was really important, and I think it was really key for the success of Cryoler in India. This period was really key. Some of the French engineers spent more than 1 year in India just to train and to have the required skills implemented at Cryoler Asia Pacific. From then, continuously developed our business, and then we have delivered tanks to our customer in 33 countries all over the world. And we celebrated our 1,000th tanks in September 2019. So we are continuously develop the activity in India. And now the plant is running with a very good load and in very good conditions.
That's great background, sir. And my next question would be, why did you choose Tamil Nadu, and what is the USP that you would say that Tamil Nadu has? What is the unique selling proposition of Tamil Nadu since you've been here for almost 10 years? And what did you find so good about Tamil Nadu that you would want to invest more here?
I think there are three main reasons to choose Tamil Nadu. The first one, I would say, is historical, and not only historical. I think there is a strong relationship between this part of India and France. First of all, the French community in India is settled majoritarily in Chennai and Pondicherry. With that advantage, you have the Consulate of France, Alliance Française, and French schools available both in Chennai and Pondicherry. So it's a major advantage for expatriate French expatriates to settle in Tamil Nadu. This is for me the first and biggest advantage, and this is this strong history and relationship between Tamil Nadu and France. Second is the manpower, the quality of manpower in Tamil Nadu. As I said, we have a very technical product, so we need really qualified welders and operators. And we found very skilled welders and operators. Till today, it's quite easy to recruit. You have good ITAs, you have good schools, and also we train some local employees that had no qualification, but they learned easily, and now they are doing very well. This is the second main advantage. It is also noticeable that you have good managers, and it's important also to run a company to have good managers in finance, HR, and all the fields of management. The quality is there in Tamil Nadu. My third reason is that as I'm doing 70% of my sales will export all around the world, the proximity of Chennai port is key. And Chennai port is the ideal location, first of all, for all Asian countries. We are selling our product in most of the Asian countries, mainly Vietnam, Singapore, even Taiwan. That is much far away. We send to Australia as well. And we are also, of course, selling in Europe and in America. Our last development is huge in the US. So the proximity of Chennai port and the activity of Chennai port that they deserve all the destinations all around the world is also key for us to settle in Tamil Nadu.
No, that's obviously a very big advantage, the port for an export-oriented business. You just mentioned that a lot of your revenue comes from export. So have you also looked at the various export incentive schemes? Have you benefited from that? And do you have some inputs on what kind of export incentive schemes that your company has actually obtained?
Yes. Of course, there was MEIS chain all these last 4 years, I think. That has been very helpful for Cryolon. Why it has been very helpful? Because it has permitted us to increase our margin, but also to be much more competitive compared, for example, with Chinese competitors that are our main competitors. And it's really important if you want to export to be competitive in the global market. And this MEIS scheme was really helpful. It will be replaced soon now by a RODTP chain. And we are looking into it. We are not finalized this because it's just starting. But I would say to all the French companies who want to settle in India, and just for exporting in the other areas all over the world, this is really useful and key. It can represent 2 to 3% of your exporting sales. It's not nothing. It's a huge amount. And so this is one of the biggest advantage to settle in India for export. There's another shame that we did not explore, but we want to explore as well, is the custom bonded warehouse scheme that is giving some subsidies for import duties to reduce import duties. And we are importing a part of our raw material. So it could be also very useful for us in this scheme. But I know a little bit less about this one.
I totally agree that the government of India as well as the government of Tamil Nadu is really looking at making Tamil Nadu an export hub, and these schemes which we spoke about, the RODTP and the customs bonded manufacturing and warehousing, are few steps in that direction. So it obviously gives a company who looks at exporting a lot of its produce a lot of cost advantages. Yes, these are new schemes, relatively new, so a lot more the companies are still analyzing it. But it for companies who really want to import their raw materials and their capital goods, these are schemes which give them a lot of import incentives as well as some exemptions from paying taxes. So I think you're on the right path by exploring these things, sir. And I'm sure you will get some more benefits when you look at these schemes in detail. My next question would be that you recently, I mean, just an hour ago, you just signed an LOI to invest about 8 million euros in Tamil Nadu. So what is this that drove you to expand your presence in Tamil Nadu rather than any other state? Because today in India, all the states are competing with each other, but what is it that made you stick to Tamil Nadu? Is it the government, the support that you get from the government, or is it some other factor that really made you stick here?
I think the first factor is when you are doing well somewhere, why looking for anywhere else, I would say. And we are doing well in Tamil Nadu. We are feeling well. We are doing well our business. We have close customers as well, like Linde Praxair and Chennai Oxygen that are linked to the close to the factory. We have also the land available in existing close to our factory. So these are the first, I would say, the first reason. Moreover, we know that we can obtain some subsidies under Tamil Nadu industrial policy. So this will be helpful. We have already some good relationship with the Tamil Nadu government. During the pandemic, we supplied 10 to 11 tanks to the Tamil Nadu hospitals through Tamil Nadu Medical Services, just to help the Tamil Nadu Medical Services to increase oxygen capacity in the several hospitals in the Tamil Nadu. So we have all these factors are doing that we don't want to settle anywhere else in India.
So yeah, that's a good decision. I think why do you have to move if you're doing well? And I totally agree that the government of Tamil Nadu is always supportive, and the Guidance Bureau, as they had announced, has been very supportive to all investors, especially the French one. Just concluding remarks, what do you feel that the government can do more, whether it's the Indian or the state government of Tamil Nadu? What more do you expect from the government to ensure that India thrives as an manufacturing and an services hub?
Oh, what can I say? I think on the administration side, sometimes there are some complexity. And so what I would like, yes, if they can do something, I think they can explore on the field of simplifying the administrative demarche work. But it's already on the way because there are pretty much digitization is on the way, especially on the HR side, on the administrative side. Most of the work is digitized, so it's going on the good way. But this is my wish is that we continue to improve this aspect.
I totally agree. There's always scope of improvement, and no matter how good you are, there's always something better to be done. So I think with this experience of yours, I think you would surely agree that Tamil Nadu is the land of opportunities, and many French companies, once they invest in Tamil Nadu, have a lot more to gain and also have a very secure ecosystem. With that, I would like to conclude my side, but if you have anything more to say, if not, it's over to Priyank.
Yes, just like to say thanks to IFCCI, but we have a huge network of French companies in Tamil Nadu, and it's also helpful for any company who would want to settle in Tamil Nadu. They have to join the network. We are all working hands together. For example, we had a visit in Renault because they use the same engineering company to erect the building. We can always help ourselves, and that's also one of the good reasons to reach Tamil Nadu, because the French companies community is very active here.
Thank you, Florent, for sharing with our guests your experience with Cryoler Asia Pacific of doing business in Tamil Nadu, and Sahil for kindly guiding the discussion as well. I take this chance to thank our partners for the event, OneHub, MTIB, and Sri Kailash Logistics, and request if a short video shared by OneHub can be queued for the audience.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. Our company name is Yanmar Coromandel Agri Solutions Private Limited. We are dealing with agriculture industries in India. We plan to set up factory and also warehouse setup in Chennai. During that time, Kailash Logistics is one of the place where we found it suitable for us.
All right. And as we come to the end of today's program, I'd like to welcome Johan Samuel, the Regional Director for South at IFCCI, to share the closing remarks.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Priyank. Am I audible?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay, perfect. Thank you, Priyank. Well, good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of IFCCI, I would like to thank each and every one of you for attending the first day of the IFCCI Indo-French Investment Conclave focusing on state of Tamil Nadu. I do want to apologize again for the technical glitch in the beginning of the session. And thank you for being patient and staying with us throughout this entire session. I would like to especially thank our special guest this afternoon, Ms. Lise Talbot-Barré, Consul General of France in Chennai and Pondicherry, for being here with us, but also for supporting us with this event. Dr. Neeraj Mittal, Managing Director and CEO of Tamil Nadu Guidance, Mr. Vishu Mahajan as well, MD of MTIB, Ms. Sai Sudha Chandrasekharan, Senior Vice President, Invest India, and also our partners for this event, because we couldn't have done it without them. That is ELCOT, the Electronics Corporation of Tamil Nadu, MTIB, the MSME Trade and Investment Promotion Bureau of Tamil Nadu, again, the Consul General of France, the Embassy of France in India, Tamil Nadu Guidance, Invest India, Business France, and CII. Would like to also take this opportunity to thank our event sponsors, ELCOT, MTIB, our gold sponsor, Mahindra World City, silver sponsors, RMO Fasteners, Sri Kailash Logistics, Capital Land India, and finally, our knowledge sponsors, Rodel and Partner, who navigated and moderated the session today, and PSA, who will be with us tomorrow. I would like to remind everyone that we still have 3 exciting panel discussions taking place tomorrow afternoon from 2 p.m. onwards, Defense and Aerospace panel, a Mobility Sector panel, and finally an Ease of Doing session where we will showcase French companies from different sectors of activity speak on their success stories in Tamil Nadu and entry strategies as well. I would like to congratulate once again all 4 companies who have signed and presented an LOI with the government of Tamil Nadu today. I wish them well, and as always, he's always here to assist them further if needed. Thank you again, everyone, and have a lovely evening and see you tomorrow. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Our company name is Yanmar Coromandel Agri Solutions Private Limited. We are dealing with agriculture industries in India. We plan to set up a factory and also warehouse setup in Chennai. During that time, Kailash Logistics is one of the places where we found it suitable for us.